Chris Sacca, Silicon Valley Micro VC. Chris, you spend a lot of time traveling around the world. You and I first met at Oxford. Silicon Valley comes to Oxford. I know you spend a lot of time in Africa on charity work. What have you learned on your travels in Africa and in Europe?
Yeah, I think, and I use this when I hire people. I think traveling outside of the United States not only exposes you to the true range of living conditions to which some people are subject. I mean, we think about poverty in the United States, and it is heart-wrenching, but when you actually see the developing world throughout Africa, throughout Asia, throughout Latin America, you really develop a perspective that I think makes us all feel grateful and also highlights the extent to which we need to work to help other people. And so I find that folks who've been exposed to that tend to be a lot easier to work with here. They see the bigger picture, they feel lucky to be in such a privileged setting, and they really go after what they're doing, not just as an entrepreneur on a for-profit basis, but they see a much more whole approach to business. I also think traveling abroad forces humility on you. You don't always speak the language. You've got few belongings. You need the help of the people that you're traveling with or the people you encounter along the way. And to do that, you sometimes have to swallow a big dose of humility and learn how to really collaborate with other people. And so I find people who've lived, studied, traveled abroad, worked abroad, again, tend to be much better folks to do business with here. And I think they bring a lot of great flavor to the Valley.
You're involved with this Silicon Valley Comes to Oxford event, which is held every year, excellent event. What does Silicon Valley offer to Oxford? How can Silicon Valley help the rest of the world learn?
Yeah, well, I think Silicon Valley, is a way of life, or it's an ethereal. It's not necessarily grounded in the geography of this place. I think it started that way because we had a research university. There was a lot of space here to build big Silicon Valley kind of fabs and stuff like that to really crank out silicon. But now I think Silicon Valley is a way of thinking about business. It's a way of focusing on end users and solving their problems. It's a way of hiring smart people, paying them relatively little, but giving them equity stakes in the outcomes of these companies. It's a way of sharing information with the people that you work with, flat, transparent organizations without a lot of mahogany and executive lunchrooms, but instead peers working side by side to solve problems. It's a lot of optimism. It's a lot of focusing on big problems and audaciously trying to pursue solutions there. And so I think in a way that when Silicon Valley executives go to somewhere like Oxford, it's like exporting values in a way. It's like thinking about a brand new way of doing business. And so in countries like Oxford that have like the UK, where they have research centers like Oxford, where they have long traditions of being a financial and a merchant center, the values that come from Silicon Valley are new and fresh, and yet they actually pick at an underlying desire in these entrepreneurs anywhere in the world to feel like they have more control over their destiny, to feel like they're respected as people, to get thrilled and excited to go ahead and work on solving end user problems and building products that people really care about. And so I think it's fun whenever we get a chance to go interact with entrepreneurs in another country and to really scratch that surface and see that we're all very, very similar. And as they start to embrace those values, they build very cool products.
And are those values really learning to learn?
I guess it's learning to learn, but I think it's just an open-mindedness. I think, when the first time any of us as a leader, we don't want to show vulnerability. We feel like we have to pretend we know everything. We don't want to show our ongoing decision-making process. I know I certainly was that way, and I was a jerk for a few years, trying to lead people and not wanting to show that I needed any help.
You're not a jerk anymore.
So I'm like half-time jerk these days. But I think what we find is that Silicon Valley really embodies this principle I call bold humility, which is you don't need to apologize for the things you're good at. A lot of engineers are just straight ninjas. Why make them disclaim their abilities? And at the same time, we need to be good at admitting where we actually aren't the best, where we need some help. And I think that value above all others, when it gets exported, it teaches the people, hey, the greatest entrepreneurs in the world don't have to pretend they know everything. They have great help around them. They hire amazingly talented people to help build out a team, and that's what goes ahead and builds a product that users really want.